To the economic report. Yes, live from my studio. And this is a Saturday, and I typically don't go live on Saturdays, but today seemed like a great time to give this a go, try to expand where the audience is. And of course, who wants to hear the message on the economic report? And today, I've got the thumbnail, of course, and the thumbnail says bye bye Birdie or bye bye Powell. And kind of an interesting decision there, right? Because what's going on here in this particular episode of Live, we're really prepping ourselves up for Monday, because the bottom line is bye bye Birdie is reference to Big Bird being cut as part of the government's spending cuts that were done in some of the latest bills passed by the House, by the Senate, signed into law by the president, and of course, cutting funding for NPR, also known as National Public Radio. Also, another thing cut, which is going to be money for PBS, standing for the Public Broadcast System, right? And they do carry, yes, educational programming. Really, a lot of this stuff started in the 60s and 70s, but it's been a continual funding source. And of course, here we are cutting government spending in essence, cutting Big Bird, all right, and plucking some of Big Bird's feathers. Well, it's not completely cutting out the funding, but maybe just maybe there's a more effective way of going about and doing this funding. I don't have an answer, but I'm just throwing that out there as something that is being looked at and deserves a little bit of a deeper dive. So next week we will dive deeper into this, because it's kind of a super cool topic and extremely interesting for people like us here on Main Street to better understand what on earth is going on here. And so I want to remind you, my name is Brian here at the Economic Report. And of course, I do respond to comments here in chat, your likes. And if you feel well served, go ahead and subscribe so I can continue to get my message to you and your inbox on a regular basis. I go live a few times a week. I have shorts a few times a week. And of course, I also am producing long form video. So welcome to the Economic Report, and I'm Brian. So we talked Big Bird here for a minute, and if you believe somebody should be here hearing this message, maybe out of nostalgia, maybe out of practicality, it's a great place to be. So plucking Big Bird's feathers with some of the budget cuts, because budget funding comes from the federal government for NPR and for PBS. There's a little bit of discussion whether or not PBS and NPR is kind of a left-leaning organization. And of course, these are nonprofits. So right away, we notice that they're going to probably attract a certain type of people. And when you attract a certain type of person, the fact is that you may not be really profit-driven, right? You're nonprofit. So the people who get attracted to those types of organizations, I want to remind you, aren't looking to basically cash in big-time money. What they're looking for instead is maybe a higher cause, a public service, if you will. And I'm welcoming you all here to the Economic Report. I'm Brian. Hey, there you go. Young forever. Glad to have you there. My name is Brian at the Economic Report. Meaningful comments I do respond to in chat. And of course, with that, today we do have stuff here. Well, Janice, welcome here. I'm glad to have you here as well. This is the Economic Report. I'm Brian. You saw from the thumbnail, we actually had a conversation here about Big Bird getting his feathers plucked by government budget cuts. Kind of crazy if you think about it. And if you're thinking about this in more detail, you're saying, well, why is the government cutting Big Bird? But of course, it's part of a bigger spending cut, which is for National Public Radio, for PBS, and part of PBS is, yes, Big Bird and Sesame Street. Maybe a lot of nostalgia there. If a kid, you might have grown up watching PBS, kids, grandkids, you get the picture. Sesame Street is a kid-friendly image, and of course, kind of a cool character. I want to remind you that if you are liked and you are subscribing, that I'm able to provide you with content to your inbox on a regular basis. So go ahead and join. But today's video really, or today's live really is about another thing here to maybe consider, because you see that Big Bird is maybe a recognizable element that is being affected by government budget cuts, right? And of course, nobody wants to see Big Bird cut. But the fact is, there's more to it, right? Because the other part of the equation that gets thrown out right now, and we'll have a long form video on this Monday, Jerome Powell is actually thrown out there as part of the problem, right? That he's really the problem because he's not lowering interest rates, and the U.S. can't refinance its debt at a lower rate, and it's bad for America, it's bad for the deficit, and it's bad for all long-term interests of the United States, right? And so you see Big Bird, you see Powell being thrown under the bus, but maybe the real problem is that the government spends too much money. And if you're liking that message, go ahead, hit like, and drop a comment here in chat. And if you think other people should be here at this live, go ahead and invite them, because I welcome them. You'll notice this morning I'm drinking water. Yes, I reuse my bottles here. And I have coffee up to 11 a.m. And part of the reason why I quit drinking coffee at 11 a.m. is I don't want to be up way late at night because I have too much caffeine in the system. So I cut myself off at 11 a.m. and go and pivot to drink water. So here I am. And of course, good stuff here. So I'll continue to with the economic report here, because part of the fact is that we have all kinds of government spending. We're like talking into the close to $30 trillion. Like, I try to write out 30 trillion sometimes on a piece of paper, and you'll look at this and say, wow, that's a lot of money, right? And of course, that's what the government, U.S. government's on the hook for when it comes to a deficit. And of course, there will come a time where the government is spending so much money on just paying the interest on the deficit that it could become a national security crisis. We still have a number of things in our, toolbox to handle this. But hey, Pokemon, welcome. Glad to have you here. Hola, ¿cómo estás? And with that, just making sure that we are actively engaged, liking and subscribing, and of course, dropping comments in the chat, because those things do matter. Well, there we go. Look at, all right. So, knowing that there's a ton of money that the U.S. government owes, there's got to be a way to service that debt. That in of itself isn't the problem. The problem is how much of your yearly budget is going to be spent just paying the interest on the debt. That's the question. And of course, you can't run your household that way. You can't pay for your college that way long term. So there's got to be a way to really maybe start limiting spending. One of the big problems we have with our government, and it is a problem, because both the Republicans don't want the Democrats to spend money, and the Democrats don't want the Republicans to spend money. But the fact is, most of those representatives are really, really interested in one theme, and that is getting reelected. Yeah, I said that first, and I'm throwing that out there to you, because one of the biggest things they want to do as soon as they get into Congress is they want to get reelected. Always, yeah, well, that's for sure. And with that, the other part of the equation deals with not just the people wanting to get reelected. It's about bringing money back to your district, your congressional district, whether you are a U.S. senator, whether you are inside of the House of Representatives. Of course, bringing money back to the government is super, super, dangerous place to be, because you're all of a sudden worried about serving your constituents. Which is part of the equation. But the other part of the equation you really want to be super mindful of is the best interest of the whole nation long term, right? So our government is imperfect, and folks, don't let anybody tell you that our government is terrible. I will let you know that every government is a compromise, and it's all based on compromise. The fact is that we are a nation of 50 different states with 50 different interests and 50 different types of people. And of course, with that, we all are together as one nation. And you want to make sure that you're mindful of that. And when we are mindful that we're all in this mess together, and number two, there is an awful lot of compromise needed to make things happen. Democracy becomes a very, very, should we say, messy process, right? But with that, we have a Republican form of government, and of course, we function very well as a democracy. And without a doubt, there will be inefficiencies. Now, of course, throughout the Anglosphere, no matter where you are, Canada, imperfect. Great Britain, imperfect. Australia, New Zealand, pieces, parts of India, pieces, parts of Hong Kong, Singapore. Once again, very, very, they're English-speaking peoples, but also you're mindful that, well, government can run really, really super inefficiently. And that's part of what governments do. They don't necessarily have should we say, a complete control. And when you have a place that is complete control, like a dictatorship, well, you might think those governments run the most efficiently, and chances are they run the least efficiently because you have one person in power, one person calling the shots, and maybe, just maybe, what appears to be efficient really is drowning out any kind of should we say conversation, different types of angles, should we say protests, should we say a different way of thinking, and of course, that's the danger of a dictatorship. So democracies and the republic form of government, we embrace, and of course, we remember ourselves that this is a process and we are all in this together. Hey, you guys have been absolutely wonderful. Thank you for joining me. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. I have a few minutes left here. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat regarding Big Bird, about Jerome Powell, about government deficits and how it impacts people just like us, just like you here on the Economic Report. Once again, I will be producing long form videos that will be coming out on Monday. I will have some shorts and, of course, continuing to engage with my audience live. I gave this as my Saturday experiment, in part just to reach out to you and maybe a different audience. And I'll also throw out the fact that I will be trying to go live a couple times in the evening. Once again, trying to improve engagement levels and, of course, making sure I'm reaching out to the audience. My name is Brian at the Economic Report. You are awesome. Don't forget, the biggest battle you fight is the one between your ears, over your thoughts, your actions, and your attitude. Take care of your health, because your health is the one thing that affects every other aspect of your life. I'll catch you later. Thanks for joining me on the Economic Report.